I'm Devesh, and if you own a truck or you're thinking about buying one, this channel is going to save you thousands of dollars. Every week, we break down the things dealers, automakers, and the government don't want you to know. Hidden scams, engineered failures, and the real truth behind the trucks Americans depend on. No fluff, no sponsored opinions, just straight facts that put the power back in your hands. Hit subscribe, because the next video might be the most important one you watch before your next truck purchase. The mechanic who has worked on trucks for 22 years just told his nephew not to buy anything built after 2020, and he wasn't talking about reliability. He was talking about something the manufacturers have been quietly doing for years, something that has nothing to do with making your truck better and everything to do with making sure you're completely dependent on a dealer for the rest of your life. Half of independent repair shops in America are now sending up to 5 vehicles every single month straight to the dealership, not because they can't fix them, but because the software won't let them. That's not a rumor. That's from a 2024 survey of thousands of independent shops across the country. 84% of those shops said vehicle data access is now the single biggest threat to their business. Bigger than inflation, bigger than finding good technicians, bigger than anything else. The truck you paid $60,000 for, it's not really yours. Let's start with the thing that changed everything. Back in 2018, Fiat Chrysler, which owns Ram, quietly installed something called a secure gateway module in every new Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram vehicle rolling off the line. On paper, it was marketed as a cybersecurity feature. In practice, it was a padlock on your truck's brain, and only the manufacturer had the key. Here's what it actually does. Before 2018, any qualified mechanic with a standard OBD2 scanner could plug into the diagnostic port under your dash, read every fault code in the vehicle, and fix the problem. That's how it worked for 25 years. That's what OBD2 was designed for: universal access, standardized across every manufacturer, so competition could exist in the repair market. The Secure Gateway module ended that. After 2018, non-dealer scanners could still read fault codes on a Ram, but they couldn't clear them, couldn't run actuation tests, couldn't reset modules, couldn't program anything. The port was still there, the data was still there, but it was locked behind a wall that only registered, manufacturer-approved tools could break through. And getting through that wall, that costs money. A yearly subscription fee through FCA's AutoAuth program, because apparently it's not enough to sell you a $65,000 truck. They want recurring revenue from the people fixing it too. Ford and GM weren't far behind. Ford's 2018 and newer trucks require proprietary software called FDRS, Ford Diagnosis and Repair System, for anything beyond basic code reading. Want to reprogram a transmission control module on a 2021 F-150? You need FDRS. You need the matching hardware interface. And in many cases, you need what Ford calls a security professional license. An independent shop without that license physically cannot complete the job. Not because the mechanic isn't skilled enough, because the software blocks them. Think about what that means for a second. The guy who's been rebuilding transmissions since before Ford's current engineers were born. He can't finish the job because he doesn't have the right subscription. GM runs a program called GDS2, Global Diagnostic System 2, that controls dealer-level access to Silverado and Sierra modules. Airbag systems, body control modules, transmission programming, all of it increasingly gated behind manufacturer-specific tools and credentials. An independent shop can diagnose certain problems. They often cannot fix them without either purchasing access to GM's proprietary systems or sending the truck to a dealer. And here's where it starts costing you real money. Dealers charge between $140 and $220 per hour for labor. The average independent shop charges between $90 and $150 on a repair that takes 3 hours. That gap adds up to somewhere between $150 and $450 extra just in labor, before a single part is touched. Then factor in parts markup. Dealerships mark up OEM parts 40 to 70% above their own dealer cost. Independent shops typically mark up 15 to 25%. On a $500 repair at an independent shop, you're looking at paying $725 to $825 for the exact same work at the dealer. Across the lifetime of a truck, we're talking about thousands of dollars, potentially tens of thousands if you keep the truck long enough. That's the real cost of the software lock, and it doesn't show up anywhere in the sticker price. Now here's where it gets particularly ugly. It's not just ECU reprogramming and transmission modules, it's your safety systems. Every truck built after 2019 is loaded with what the industry calls ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. Lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control. These systems are calibrated to precise manufacturer specifications. And every single time certain components are disturbed, a windshield replacement, a front bumper repair, a suspension alignment, those systems have to be recalibrated. The calibration costs between $300 and $1,000 depending on the truck and the system. Some complex setups run past $1,500. And while independent shops are increasingly buying the equipment to do basic calibrations, the most complex recalibrations, the ones that require manufacturer-level software to verify and sign off, still route back to the dealer. You replace a cracked windshield on your 2022 Silverado, and suddenly you're being told the forward-facing camera needs dealer recalibration before the lane assist works again. That's not an accident. That's a design choice. A mechanic in Ohio put it to me like this: I can change the windshield, I can mount the camera, but I can't tell the truck's brain that everything's been done correctly without paying GM for the privilege. So the customer either pays me, then pays the dealer, or they just go to the dealer and pay twice there. That's where it sits right now for hundreds of thousands of truck owners across America. But let's go deeper, because this isn't just about what happens when your truck breaks. This is about the data coming off your truck right now while it's parked in your driveway. Modern trucks, anything built with a built-in cellular connection, which is most 2020 and newer vehicles, transmit data wirelessly, directly to the manufacturer, constantly. Maintenance data, location data, driving behavior. The old OBD2 port was the only channel mechanics had to access that data. Now the data is going straight to Ford servers, GM servers, Stellantis' servers, and the law hasn't caught up to what that means. In 2020, Massachusetts voters passed a ballot measure called the Right to Repair Law. With 75% of the vote, the law said manufacturers had to give independent mechanics the same wireless data access that dealers get. 75%. That's not a close vote. That's a mandate. The automakers sued the next day. Their lobbyists went to work. The federal government intervened and said the law might conflict with vehicle cybersecurity rules. The case went to court, got delayed 7 times, and didn't get resolved until early 2025, when a federal judge finally dismissed the automakers' challenge. 5 years of legal stalling after voters made their will clear. And in the meantime, manufacturers like Subaru and Kia simply turned off their telematics features for Massachusetts residents rather than share access. They crippled their own vehicles rather than comply with a consumer protection law. That is the level of commitment here. That's how badly they want to own the repair market. And they've spent serious money making sure the laws don't change. NADA, the National Automobile Dealers Association, spent nearly $5 million in lobbying in just the first 3 quarters of 2025. The Repair Act, a bipartisan federal bill that would require manufacturers to give independent shops and vehicle owners access to the same data dealer networks get, was reintroduced in early 2025. It immediately stalled in committee. Bipartisan support, real consumer need. Doesn't matter because the lobbying money is flowing in the other direction. The bill's supporters are now trying to get it attached to the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act, which Congress has to pass by the fall. Whether that happens is anybody's guess. What's not a guess is that without it, the gap between what a dealer can do and what an independent mechanic can do will keep growing, because the trucks keep getting more complicated and the software keeps getting more locked. Here's what that looks like on the ground. In a 2024 Auto Care Association survey, 63% of independent shops said they face bottlenecks making routine repairs daily or weekly. Not complicated repairs, routine ones, because of manufacturer restrictions. 51% said they send up to 5 vehicles a month to the dealer because the data access just isn't there. And the diagnostic tools needed to even attempt the proprietary stuff, those cost an average of $2,400. And 45% of surveyed technicians said that price was simply too high for their shop to absorb. So smaller shops are turning away work. Mid-sized shops are spending thousands on subscription fees that used to be free. And you, the truck owner, are left with a choice between paying dealer prices or not getting the job done at all. Let's put some specific numbers on this. On a 2021 Ford F-150, a powertrain control module replacement, parts and labor, runs between $547 and $587 in parts alone, plus the programming. At an independent shop that somehow has the access, maybe $900 all in. At the dealer, closer to $1,400 to $1,800. Once you factor in the labor rate premium and the programming fees. That's the same fix, same part, same result. $700 in difference, minimum, because of who holds the software key. A 2022 Ram 1500 with an airbag fault after a minor collision, that module reset can be done by a third-party service if the shop knows where to look. But a full new module programming, VIN-specific, with all the modern safety system handshakes, that requires Stellantis authorization tools. The dealer knows it, they price accordingly. And this is before we get into what's coming next. The automakers are moving toward over-the-air software updates, the same model Tesla pioneered. Your truck's software gets updated remotely. Sometimes that's fine. Sometimes those updates change calibrations, change performance parameters, change how systems interact. And there is no requirement that the manufacturer tell you what changed, or that independent mechanics get access to documentation explaining what the new software does. You'll know your truck is different. You might not know why. And the person who used to be able to tell you, your neighborhood mechanic, won't have access to find out. This is the end game. Not just locking repairs, locking the understanding of the vehicle itself. So what can you actually do right now? If you're buying a truck, 2019 and older models are still the sweet spot for independence from dealer control. Not because they're simpler, they're still complex, but because the software lockout systems are less aggressive and the diagnostic tools required are far more accessible to independent shops. If you already own a post-2020 truck, find a shop that has invested in the manufacturer-specific tools. Ask them directly, can you program modules on this truck, or do I have to go to the dealer? Get the answer before you need it. Don't find out during a crisis. If you own a Ram 2018 and newer, your truck has the secure gateway module. Third-party bypass devices exist. Some shops use them. Whether that approach is right for your situation is between you and your mechanic. But know the landscape. And if you want the law to change, contact your congressional representative and ask them specifically about the Repair Act. Not a form letter, a specific question. Where do you stand on HR 1566? That's the bill, that's the number, use it. Here's the thing that really gets me about all of this. The companies doing this aren't struggling startups trying to protect a fragile business model. Ford posted $176 billion in revenue in 2023. General Motors pulled in $171 billion. Stellantis, which owns Ram, runs global operations across 14 brands. These are not companies that need to squeeze extra margin out of your diagnostic port to survive. They do it because they can, because there's no law stopping them, because the lobbying is cheaper than the competition, and because most truck owners don't know this is happening until they're sitting in a dealer waiting room watching the service advisor type numbers into a computer, wondering why the bill is 3 times what their mechanic quoted. Now you know. So tell me, have you run into this firsthand? Has a mechanic turned away your truck? Or have you gotten stuck at the dealer for something that felt like it should have been a straightforward fix? Drop it in the comments. I read every one of them. If this opened your eyes, hit that like button and send it to someone who drives a truck, because they need to know this before their next repair, not after. Subscribe and stay close, because next week we're pulling back the curtain on something even the dealer techs don't talk about. Extended warranty contracts and the specific language automakers use to deny your claim when you need it most. Protect your wallet. Know your truck. I'll see you next week.